This one, man. Ooh, steady, steady. Oh, steady. Welcome to the Taupo District Council meeting, Tuesday 28th of August 2018. And I'd like to call on Councillor Kingi to bless the meeting and karakia today. Thank you very much, Councillor Kingi.
Thank you, Worship. Good everyone. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kine kine ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te a tākura, he teo, he hoka, he hauhu, haumi e, hui e, tā ki e.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Councillor Kingi. Right, item 1 on the agenda today is apologies, and we have Councillor Harvey, Councillor Stewart, unfortunately mother-in-law's not well, and Councillor Truman. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Item 2, conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest pertaining to the items today we have on our agenda?
Through the chair, I have a conflict of interest on 5.3, so I'm one of the commissioners in the second delegate powers too, so I obviously must be voted on that one.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jollins. Duly noted. All right, no other conflicts of interest. We go to 3.1. It's the ordinary council meeting on the 27th of July 2018. Any points of clarification of those minutes or any questions? Councillor Williamson. Okay, so we have got Lake Taupo Sports Advisory Council add the School of Music. Thank you very much, Jamie. You okay with that? Thank you very much. All right, thank you, Councillor Williamson. Any other points of clarification? No? Do I have a mover for those minutes, please? Moved by Councillor Hickling, seconded by Councillor Kingi. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 3.2, Ordinary Council meeting on the 31st of July 2018. Any points of clarification on those particular minutes? Councillor Boddy, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure whether it's a question was asked at that meeting by I think Councillor Jolins in regards of our responsibilities on 5.3, which is page 22 of our agenda. I'm just wondering, do we have a contingency sum set into that contract before we started? Because I've gone back on the last number of meetings and I just can't find it.
So the question is, what page?
Well, it's page 22 of the agenda. We did have a contingency? So the additional amount of monies paid was above that contingency figure?
Yes.
That was including the contingency.
Yep.
Including or above?
The amount included, it was in the items, so it included the contingency, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So the amount of money that was paid extra was that contingency figure? Is that correct?
I think what Councillor's body is the contingent.
It included the contingency, yes.
So the contingency made up part of that outstanding, or that money that was approved, included the contingency.
So how much was actually unbudgeted?
You can get that.
Well, what I'm saying is, if I understand it, that was unbudgeted money to meet that expense because they found hard rock rather than soft rock. Unbudgeted money. Well, if it was unbudgeted, it wouldn't have been a contingency sum, would it?
So, so the question is, there was a percentage of that would have been contingency. What was, as Councillor Body said, what was over and above that contingency? Is that correct?
The council of the figures, it was all on paper.
Well, as I understand it, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be probably wrong. It's the fact that the 100-something thousand extra to get the job done was unbudgeted. That's really what I'm trying to ascertain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we can get that number to you. All right. Any other queries on or points of clarification on those minutes? Okay. Could I have a mover, please, for those? Councillor Jollins, thank you. Seconded Councillor Williamson. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 4.1. Lisa, are we okay with the noise levels and what have you? Okay, cool. Thank you. Ordinary Audit and Risk Committee meeting on the 23rd of July 2018. Same deal. Any questions or queries? No, that being the case, could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Kling, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Okay, item 5.1, Dreamer. Sounds like me. Dreamer of Peace sculpture.
Okay, so I've got Chardell here with me. If you recall, Chardell presented this item as part of a public workshop as opposed to a formal council meeting. So there's a couple of there's one procedural thing in here and some conversation around what is in effect unbudgeted expenditure. So the original proposal was for Dreamer of Peace statue, which I think there was a consensus to accept. The explanation was that it'd be given free, there'd be no cost to council. But as we've delved deeper into this, obviously there's a cost of installation which wasn't included in the original proposal. So what you'll see there is everything from engineers certification through to concrete and plaques and things like that, and also lighting. So that's, I guess, the guts of the conversation today. Then there's also if you decide to proceed, there's the actual official approval of the donation and installation and the site as well, which, because it was done in a non-formal environment, there was no resolution passed by council. So Chardell ask any questions, but I'll answer as much as I can. But I guess it's up to you to have a debate around whether you support this or not.
Okay, thanks John, and good afternoon Chardell. Nice to have you here.
Good afternoon to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to come here.
Okay, so just a quick question. You forgot about the possible costs of installation when your original submission. Sorry, I wasn't here for that.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yes, it wasn't discussed, that aspect of it, and we didn't think to bring it up at the time. It was just the submission, the concept of it, having the Dreamer of Peace statue here in Taupo.
Right.
And we are offering that as a group, $25,000 cost to us. The statue is actually in storage here in Taupo now.
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at the cost of the installation of it, and we were hoping, I guess, that the council would look at being able to pay that aspect of it, or at least some of it. The plaque we are happy to pay for. We're committed to that as well. That'll be probably somewhere in the vicinity of $1,000 to $1,500. I'm just working through getting quotes on that now. So there's, as I understand it, there's 4 elements to the installation of the statue, and that is the foundation to hold it in place and to keep it strong against the weather, and a base to go around it that people can stand on if they wish to, and 2 uplights to light it, particularly at night, given the place where it is going to be standing. It's a little dark down there at night, and that would be wired into the existing lighting that's around the path, the pathways, the pavements and so forth. So those, I think, are the major things.
If I can just add one more thing. Sorry, I forgot to say that normally we have a public works, public art budget. Unfortunately, that was used to pay, was committed this financial year. So normally this wouldn't be a major issue because we'd have budget to be able to do this thing, even though it's usually a 50-50. But we've expended that with the Chinese, the Suzhou archway. So that's why we've got a bit of an issue. That's why it's unbudgeted expenditure.
Yes, as soon as we get projects mentioned, there's no charge. We get all very excited.
Yes. Yeah. Well, again, we didn't go any further except offering the statue,
Right.
and that's sort of as far as it went on the day.
Okay.
And so that's why I guess this discussion is happening now.
No problems.
Yeah.
All right, questions, please. Councillor Park.
Just one, thank you, and nice to see you again. When you walked in, I was only staring at you because I thought you look familiar, but I couldn't place you. With the Dreamer of Peace sculpture, is there any sort of religious connotation to it at all, or is it for all lovers of peace? Or
Yes, it is universal. I feel. I guess if people wanted to chew a bone about it, they might aim at that, but we're not a religion. The person that was modelled after Sri Chinmoy was not a religious man, he was a spiritual man. And he was very much involved in a lot of interfaith work and bringing people together. And that's what he's known for. And that's why we chose him for that piece of artwork. Because it is interactive in so much as that it engages people. And I've actually spent quite a bit of time over the last 6, 7, 8 weeks talking to people in the community about coming to the unveiling ceremony and from right across the board, the different religions in the community here, the different community groups, tangata whenua, and so forth. They're quite excited about the idea of it, that we all come together for this. So
So it is about harmony and being united as opposed
yes,
to
absolutely, yes. No, and that's exactly anecdotally what I've heard from different countries around the world that already have the statue. Czech Republic and Bali, Australia and Mexico, different places. They're having that experience, that it's universal. Thank you.
Councillor Body?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in regards to lighting, because the other two I saw during daylight, so I didn't know whether they were lit up or not. Is that a necessary requirement, or is it just the place that it's going to be put?
Why I've sort of been interested in having uplighting is because it's quite dark down in that corner of Tongariro South Domain. And I thought it would be nice if it was lit at night, because it would make it accessible and also add an element of protection. That's the main reason for that.
If anyone's seen the archway yet, lit up at night, it looks absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went down and had a look at it one night a few weeks ago, more during the thick of the winter. And even though there's quite a lot of pathway lighting there, it's very directional and very focused. But in that particular spot, it was very dark, so I thought it would be nice to have uplighting for the two reasons that I mentioned. Protection and also accessibility, I guess, for people will notice it more at night. And that will be a bit of a feature more, I guess, of the summer.
Mr. Chairman, I know by the way we work, we can't carry something over to the next financial year from the arts. Is that correct, Mr. Ridd?
In terms of the public art, yeah, that can be rolled out as capital expenditure.
So my point being that if we table it, i.e. put this on hold till the next financial year, we may be able to have it come out of that particular budget. I appreciate it's only just started, but see, I'm prepared to put money in myself, but to me it's a great gift. It's a matter of how much we've got to spend to put it in.
Councillor Jollins?
sorry, my buzzer's not working.
Too many people have it on.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you, John. I was just interested to know, I know that the sculptures in other cities around the world, can you just talk a little bit to us about how that piece is viewed by the communities such as the one in Australia, how it's been used, who comes to visit it? And then I have a question for Mr. Ridd, if I may.
Yes, speaking to friends of mine that have been involved in these projects in different cities, there are many of them. All I hear back is positive things, and we've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence, and some of them have witnessed, anecdotally seeing people at the statues, visiting them, and excuse me, they're very inspired. Generally, we find that people are inspired by the ideals of the statue and the plaque, and what it represents, and interactive in so much as that it really says to people viewing it that peace is something that begins with all of us. And that's a very significant idea, not something that we wait for somebody else to organise for us. It's not a lack of war either. It's something that we experience or don't experience in our day-to-day lives, but can experience in our day-to-day lives. And the statue itself and the wording of the plaque obviously speak to that, and generally tend to touch people's hearts and inspire them.
Okay.
Councillor Williams?
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
you've got one more.
And just a question from me. Have we discussed maintenance of the statue? Should we accept it? What we need to do? Are we going to look at an MOU? How that will all work?
Yeah, so we have
Having been caught before.
we have a standard MOU these days in terms of that sort. Yeah, so what we would do is agree. I don't think there's a formal body. You don't have. I don't. The issue is there isn't a formal entity, I guess, to have a relationship with. But the MOU is generally around. It comes out to count. Yeah, all those things that we wrapped up when we had the issue with the giant bike, which we've wrapped up in the MOU. So I'm comfortable that we can cover that side of things.
There's a thing I think we need to remember to look at is maintenance, because if we're going to have the symbol of peace, we need to look after our symbol.
Yes, that's very kind. And myself, being a local, I would be prepared to help and assist with that. Obviously, it's a bronze statue with a patina on it. It's very highly polished as well, and I've also been told by the sculptor himself how to look after it, and I've actually purchased wax and so forth that goes onto it maybe once every couple of months to protect it. But I would certainly keep an eye on it myself as a local and as a member of the Sri Chinmoy Oneness Home Peace Run, which is
Councillor
offering.
Williamson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Thank you, Shadul. Thank you for that. Obviously, I missed the forum when you made the presentation a couple of weeks ago to the full council regarding. Obviously, there would have been given some historical information around the actual wanting to celebrate this year being 25 years, commemorating the relationship with Taupo with the peace run. And
Yes.
I don't believe I have a conflict of interest, but my mother was mayor at the time when that was signed. So there's a significance in terms of doing it now rather than, as council bodies suggested, fair enough to carrying it over to the next financial year, but it'd be appropriate to do it next month, to, if nothing else, to celebrate the 25 years.
Yes.
And did you mention with your, you mentioned before about the $1,500, will that equate, or was that some fundraising you're doing towards the cost of the installation
For the plaque.
for the plaque?
That was just
yes,
purely
yeah,
for the purchase of a plaque.
thank
We're
you.
thinking of getting one cast in bronze.
Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Rankin.
I think it's a beautiful and unique gift for Taupo, and I'm really delighted that you have chosen us. Look, every dollar that we have is precious because we have a very ambitious program of work. But I think if we can support this, if there's some way that we can take the money out of next year, this year, because our arts budget is very low, the way we support arts is minimal. And this is not just art, it's something a whole lot more than that. And so I personally do support you, and I think we have to find a way to juggle next year with this year if we possibly can.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Huckling.
This is probably not relevant to this particular item, but I do know that we've got a sculpture coming up in Turangi. And so, unfortunately, our arts budget is already been allocated this year. We've got nearly $6,000 today. I'm assuming that probably the Turangi one will be roughly about the same. And I would support both of them. But I'm just making a point that perhaps our arts budget does need a little bit of tweaking from time to time, and I'm supportive of both those sculptures when Turangi's does get presented to Taupo, because I know that there will be some unbudgeted item. So just making the point.
Thanks,
Through
Councillor Huckling.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just to answer that, I'll just say this would be the first time that we've ever expended the full public arts budget in its history, and you'll remember that was just because of that Shuzo gateway. When the paper for Shuzo was getting done, you'll remember we also talked about, did we do that as unbudgeted? Did we do that under a fund for the sister city but we decided it was public art, so we took it from here. So that's what we're paying the price for now, I guess, is having, I won't say robbed, because it was use of a budget to achieve that aim for the gateway, but that's why it's become an issue. If it had been any other year, then that budget would have been, this wouldn't be the same issue that it is now.
Through the chair.
Williamson?
Through the chair.
When we set up the arts or the sculpture budget originally, there was $100,000. I think that carried on for probably 4 or 5 years, or probably two sessions. But then, of course, we, with the financial crisis, we had to do some budget adjustments, and it got knocked down to 25.
Cool.
End of story.
Thank you for that, Councillor.
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson?
Notwithstanding those comments, I endorse Councillor Rankin's comments as a one-off, perhaps not a gold but a bronze opportunity for a statue into community. So I would like to move recommendations 1 and 2.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Okay, it's been moved, and thank you, Sade, for your offer here. Yes?
I know you've mentioned about other groups that you've talked to, and I tried to get this done with that Chinese archway, that if people to get the benefit from Chinese visitors should be contributing. I'm just wondering whether this could be deferred to next month to give me a chance to talk to finance. Is there some way to fund this year?
We'd certainly take retrospective donations as well, wouldn't we too?
That's one of the reasons I want to talk to finance, whether under our laws can it be done. So for instance, if someone came along with $6,000 and said, here, go do it, and then when the arts budget comes up next year, that person or persons or whatever get their $6,000 back, can that be done?
We could credit the account, or credit the account. But anyway, question was, Councillor Body suggested that if someone loaned us the money, basically, is that what you're saying? Loaned us the money to do it, and then,
Through the chair, I'd rather we stuck to our normal practice of finding 5,750 somewhere in our budgets. I'm not in favour of entering into one-off arrangements of that nature.
Cool. All right. It's been moved by Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Rankin, and I'll just talk in support again. Charlotte, what an absolute opportune time too. With the archway going in, you're going to get a lot of traffic through there, and I think there'll be 2 wonderful, attractions. And anything that promotes peace has got to be good, doesn't it? So I think that's wonderful. But so thank you for your offer here, and appreciate clarifying the installation side. So it's been moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against?
No.
Councillor Body, would you like that recorded? Certainly. So 1 against was Councillor John Body. All right. Where are we now? Thank you. Right. 5.2, naming of public road 29 Hirapeka Street subdivision. Darren. Welcome, Darren.
I'll take you all had a read of this. Any questions?
Okay, pretty straightforward, isn't it? Have you got another job to do? Thanks, Darren. It's all pretty straightforward. Obviously, that construction's underway up there, and they're starting to really take shape. Certainly, as a particular persuasion, I'm more than happy to support it myself. But anyway, well, you're the same. So, Councillor Kingy.
Oh, thank you, Bishop. I just did have one question. Just the rationale around abbreviating St. Pat's instead of St. Patrick's, like given it as a Catholic name and that?
Yeah, I guess the developer for these names, they had Saint the full version as the second, but for whatever reason they have to this one, so I think the developers requested it. As a note, land information is not the civil authority on road names have the
queries of Darren? No? I'm happy to second it. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you very much, Darren. Right, more exciting one, 5.3. Delegation of functions, powers and duties to hearings commissioners for Plan Change 34, flood hazard. Good afternoon, Susan.
Albeit a bit slowly. We've had submissions, we've had further submissions, they've closed. The next stage is a hearing of those submissions, which now, unfortunately, changed from the paper, is now likely to be in November, not in September. We, through the delegations manual, the powers to hear, deliberate and recommend decisions on plan changes rests with Gareth, because it's delegated to Gareth, and under the RMA you can't sub-delegate. So this is really just a procedural matter for the council to delegate those powers under the RMA to the hearings commissioners, so they can hear, deliberate and make a recommendation on that plan change.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions or queries, Sue? Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Boddy, and Jeff Jones. Is he the ex-regional council chair?
Jeff Jones, yes.
CEO was he, or
yes,
chair?
He was the CEO.
Good. Okay. His daughter lives here, doesn't she? All right, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Lovely. Right, 5.4, Taupo Airport. Approval of expenditure for the installation of a permanent generator. Mr. Brian Fox. Good afternoon, Brian.
Your Worship, this agenda item fundamentally it's a question for Council. Is it happy to provide one of its non-dedicated assets to mitigate a risk at the airport? We previously have funded generators out of our disaster recovery reserve, 2 of them from memory. It's not a reserve we use lightly, but we do occasionally come to you with such requests. I have been advised by our finance team that technically, even though there is a disaster recovery reserve, that this is technically unbudgeted capital expenditure.
Oh no!
So you know, I'm loath to be here saying that, but that's just the advice I've received, and Alan may want to comment on that further, but that's the advice. So it's really about the council approving unbudgeted capital expenditure. However, having said that, it will be coming from our disaster recovery reserve, which currently sits, I think, at last closing balance of about 1.8 million, and you fund about $100,000 a year per annum into that fund. So if I was coming to you about an ice cream parlour, you'd have a concern, but I think in terms of this situation, it clearly is linked to, from an emergency management perspective, clearly linked to the activity, and it probably has consequential benefits to the airport as a whole as well.
Brian, sorry, have you finished? Yeah, you've got a track record of gaining sponsorship on some of these generator items. There's no chance of that? Very good track record, actually.
We have in the past been able to gain sponsorship on certain things in that activity, and clearly it's the community good feel for civil defence is important. We haven't had time to actually explore that, to be quite honest with you, in this space.
Okay. Councillor Park.
Possibly, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. This to me is a no-brainer. The Taupo Airport redevelopment is one of our 6 catalyst projects for the district. And also, I was quite surprised that there wasn't a generator in place in the first place. And to me, yes, it is an unbudgeted expenditure item on the books, but there is a reserve fund to pay for that. So it is just yes, it's unbudgeted, but there is the money, because we haven't planned this work in. I'm very happy to move this, Your Worship, and I'd like to hear that the TAA committee is comfortable with the generator being put in. I mean, we need to have fuel and water at the airport. It's a no-brainer.
I mean, I can speak in support of that. I understand it's for, emergency management, but from practical purposes, we've had several power outages for various reasons at the airport in the past 6 months. That means we can't get water to the terminal, we can't pump fuel. So, you know, there are reputational risks to what is a strategic asset for us. So, yeah, for me, this is very much a no-brainer as well. And I'm sure the airport users would say thank you.
And just through the chair, further to that, we have got a very, very useful emergency manager when it comes to gaining different assets in that portfolio area. I mean, at the emergency management meeting, we were told that we now are the proud owners of 2 Unimogs, which have come to us at no expense, and possibly trailers. So I think, you know, when you balance things out, it's all very fair.
Thanks, Anna. Oh, sorry, just before.
Your worship.
Councillor Hickling?
Just a procedural thing then. Is this recommendation worded correctly?
No, it's not. No, it would need to change.
So it needs to change.
It does need to
It's
change.
already been moved, but we need to change it.
Yeah,
Up on the-
okay.
Oh, it's up.
Yeah,
Okay.
just gone up. Yeah. Councillor Kingy?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Well, just supporting what Anna says. Just supporting what Anna says, Chair, in terms of you know, this is a no-brainer. We need to get it done. We need to have a surety that you know, our strategic assets are going to sustain if something's going on around the district. So yeah, just get on and do it.
Thanks, Councillor Kingy. Two questions, Brian. Sorry, before Councillor Buddy. Where will it be located? Given that the airport is up for redevelopment, just that they're not particularly attractive, these things, are they? So, just as long as that's taken into consideration.
Sure,
yeah.
I'm sure it will be. I'm not exactly clear where it's going to be situated in terms of the locality of the airport. It's, I know there's been our electrical consultants looking at that in terms of where it's best situated, but I can't answer that question. I can come back to you on that.
Okay, that'll be good. You know, we've got the terminal, we've got the shed, and then we've got that thing on the left, the office. Yeah, it's,
Yep.
Yep.
I'll take it.
And also, what will it actually power?
Fuel and water primarily is the major risk areas, is my understanding.
What, sorry?
Fuel and water.
Okay, so what about the lights on the tarmac?
So that's already covered by CAA, is my understanding.
Yep.
I'm happy to be guided by the TAA members here, but that's my understanding.
So just the fuel pump, and what about terminal power?
Just hearing from John, terminal power as well.
So we'll be keeping the lights on, getting fuel pump and water ducts, but air side is covered.
Yeah.
CAA.
So we can continue operating.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you very much. Just you know, whether the landscape architect needs to be involved or something, just I'd take, you know, it's not that particularly aesthetically beautiful now, so you know, that generates something.
We'll put it in the camping ground where the caravans are. I need a bit of an explanation. If we have a budget, Mr. Fox, let's have $1 million for disaster recovery reserves, would every expenditure we have out of that be unbudgeted, i.e. unless it's in a list to be done? How does that work?
So the answer is yes, given the advice today. It's always unbudgeted, but we have an allocation, we have a reserve that can cover that as opposed to having to find the money, if I can put it that way. Yeah, we don't budget for having a disaster per se, but we budget to have a reserve to meet immediate requirements around that. And at times we say some of those aspects we can cover off earlier in the piece than waiting for the disaster to happen. This is one of those times.
Okay, and we're not adverse to potential sponsorship as well?
Never averse to potential sponsorship.
Do you want that in the resolution?
You could take it from me that I've locked it in, Your Worship.
Good. All right, now, I think we had a mover, did we? Councillor Park, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against? Carried. Lovely, thanks, Brian. Right, 5.5, Council Engagement, September 2018. Gina.
Afternoon. Not much to add in terms of the engagements. We just have the local government zone 2 meeting end of September, towards the end of September in Gisborne. So whether any councillors would like to attend that, please.
Anyone like to go to Gisborne? I know it's a particularly good meal. Last time I was in Gisborne. Yeah. Anyone keen? Tom? John? Councillor Williamson? Good on you, John. Marvellous. Take your surfboard. Okay. So those dates and times are all good for the meeting. So we have one there, and number 2 will be Councillor Williamson on there. Thank you, Shane. You going away again? I think under statutory rule. No, that's right. What was that, John? You want to take part? No. No, that's right. All right. Councillor Berry, would you like to? Oh my God. Wow.
District Council bill.
Okay. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Members' reports, 5.6. Any members' reports, any tabled reports coming this way? Very good. Councillor Body's offering to have a slideshow one night. See his.
Through the chair, I attended the Lakes and Waterway Action Group AGM a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, thank you.
And so that was quite well attended by quite a lot of representative groups.
Great. Thank you. All right, pretty straightforward. Okay, can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Kingy. Members' reports be received. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Okay, we're going to the confidential section for the reason outlined. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jolland, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Right.